This episode of the Inferno is presented by Pearl River Resort. Pearl River Resort is the perfect place to spend a game day weekend. With gaming, golf, dining, entertainment, and more, there's no better place to stay and play. Welcome back to the Inferno, and the Inferno Show Rundown is brought to you by Legacy Federal Credit Union, the official credit union of UAB. We're going to have this week in UAB sports a blowout for the ages. 6 touchdowns. Pretty nice. Coach's Corner is coming up here with Trent Dilfer. Back to the hardwood finally. It's CFP week, and the most important man, I'm going to say the most important person in all of music is no longer with us.
Elvis?
It's bigger than Elvis.
No such thing.
It is. It is. The Inferno starts next.
Trent Dilfer here, head football coach of the UAB Blazers. I want to tell you about my friends at Legacy Credit Union. Legacy began as University Credit Union in 1955 and remains committed to UAB faculty, students, alumni, and fans. Not only do they support the Birmingham community, but they are also proud sponsors of UAB and UAB athletics. Visit LegacyCreditUnion.com and find out why you should become a member today.
Welcome back to the Inferno. Mark Ingram, of course, is the UAB athletic director. Used to do a show with me on Tony Career Radio. So glad that we have not missed a week, and we've been here every single week. Trent Dilfer will join us in just a few minutes. Coach coming off huge victory against Tulsa, and of course, now getting ready for UConn 1:30 on Saturday as we record this show. But a lot of great stuff going on. How you doing, my brother? Everything good?
Man, I'm good. It was really great to see the football team not just win, obviously, but that's how they practice every day. And so I know that that's been a big part of the frustration. Fans are frustrated because they want to see us win. We're frustrated because we want to see us win. We're frustrated because we want to see us win, and because we know what you saw Saturday is what we're absolutely capable of. And so hopefully that's a kind of the jumping off point that the guys need, and to feel good again about build their confidence back. UConn is good. UConn is really good. They rank, I think it's 5th in third down defense. Their defense is really tough. They got a lot of players. They have some Northeastern kids. They got a lot of guys from Florida, Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, a lot of Southern players too, a lot of transfers. So Jim Mara has done a great job there, and it's tough. It's a tough job, and which kind of tells you what a good job he's doing. And so even in their losses have been close. So I'm excited. 1:30 again on Saturday, and you mentioned it. Basketball season has started back up. Our women's volleyball team has their last home game of the year against Memphis Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. So hoping people will be there. We're right on the edge of making the conference tournament, which we're in a tougher league now, like in everything. But in volleyball, we're currently tied for 10th, and top 8 go to conference. So Memphis is sitting in front of us. We've got an opportunity to get in, kind of work our way in the last 3 games here before conference tournament. And then men's basketball has another game Thursday night at 6:30, and a third home game this week on Sunday at 2 o'clock.
So I'm talking about 3 games a week. I like that for the rest of the season, please. That's good stuff. I had a friend of mine call me at halftime of the UAB game, and he said, man, for the last few weeks, UAB couldn't find the end zone, and now they can't stop scoring. They can't stop scoring. And I said, we'll take that ladder anytime. 45 points at a halftime. And listen, the Kitnick guy, he's got some legacy behind him because of his old man playing up the Cincinnati Bengals for a while. He's starting to look like his old man.
Yeah, his dad, John, played for a lot of people, Dallas, Seattle, I think Detroit and Cincinnati, and had a great career. He has a younger brother that's a quarterback. He's committed to us for now, and hopefully that sticks. But, guys just executed. It wasn't that we did anything that different other than we caught the ball when we needed to catch the ball. We picked up some blitzes when we need to pick up blitzes. Better ball security. We need to improve there, continue to improve there. But it was more about just like each person handled their assignments person by person. And that's what yields a victory in football. And you got to do that in all sports. But when you've got 11 people on the field at one time playing against another 11, you've really got to just hey, man, just do your job. And then I'll do my job. And you and I side by side doing our job. And then this guy's got to do his job, and so on and so on. And that's how football gets coordinated, beautifully, and that's what we saw Saturday.
Got to win your box, and you mentioned UConn's a pretty good team. They got 6 victories on the season.
Yeah.
I'm a line guy.
And like I said, even in their losses, they're close. They played Wake Forest really tight.
I like to look at lines and stuff like that. We do a couple of different shows on Tony Curry Radio, and I see that they're only a 6-point dog at home. They're 2-2 now at home. I like them. I don't want to put any jinx on them, but I think they've turned the corner a little bit. And then one thing is, if you go back and you early watch UAB football, like I know we all do that listen to the show and work for the university, but if you really watch the game film over the last 3 or 4 weeks, they are getting better in some areas, and it seemed like it all kind of came together there.
Finally, yeah.
Granted, it was against a Tulsa team that has a losing record as well, but
they do. But
there's a reason why they're only a 6-point dog against a team that's already bowl eligible. That's what I'm saying.
Right, and Tulsa had just beaten San Antonio. Mm-hmm. They were down 35-7 at the half, and they came back and won that game.
Yep.
And I don't think San Antonio, listen, all my good friends, Lisa Campos, the AD there, and Jeff Traylor, their coach, this is not to take anything away. I'm just saying they're not the best team in our league, but they're kind of in the middle right now. And, so Tulsa, who, is struggling, they beat them. And so, I felt good, to get the win. And, sometimes that's all that the players need, just any victory, right? Get what can we do right? And the loss at South Florida really was depressing, right? Mm-hmm. Because we were up, we had it, and it was that old, snatch defeat from the jaws of victory kind of feeling. And what happens when you're not winning is when the other team scores, you just kind of immediately shoulders drop. Head drops. Oh, here we go again. And it's like, hey man, there's 55 minutes left. There's a lot of, but when you're not winning, you can get that way, and so it was really important for so many reasons to get that victory the other day, and I'm happy for the guys.
Yeah, South Florida actually favored against Navy this weekend, who of course was undefeated a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I couldn't believe they lost to Rice the other day.
I mean, everything kind of comes, the cream rises to the crop, right? So by the time most people hear this show, the CFP will have had their first poll out. It comes out on Tuesday. Coincidentally, of course, it's also Election Day. We're not going to talk about that.
Yeah.
As an athletic director, I know you're super excited that it's gone from 4 teams to 12 teams. I'm looking at some of that, like Indiana's going to get in, Boise State's going to get in, BYU's going to get in as of right now.
Right.
I think Indiana's got like an 89% chance of making it in according to the All-State CFP predictor, which I'm like, wow. And so SEC 4 teams in, Big Ten 4 teams in. When you look at that, and it's exciting. I mean, I look at teams 5 through 12, to be honest with you, because I want to see those teams have a shot at getting in there. Being the athletic director of a UAB that knows you've had a winning season every year but once since 2017, since you brought the team back, that's got to get you kind of excited to know that, hey, listen, the little guys can get back in now.
Yeah, you want it to not be an invitational.
Yeah.
The college football playoff should be that, not an invitational, which is what it used to be with just 2 teams or 4 teams. It was an invitational, and now it's getting farther away from that. To only have one school in the group of 5 go, I think, is disappointing. But it all depends on, what everyone's rank is. And all you got to do is keep winning football games. And who knows, man? Army could really get in. Tulane could get in. You mentioned Boise, didn't you? Mm-hmm. UNLV had started off really hot. I think they're probably out now.
I think the point is now, if you go undefeated – we've always felt like if you go undefeated, you should get UCF in a couple of years. You should get a chance to do something.
Yeah,
I mean, all we can do is win our games, right? And now, if you go undefeated, there's about a 99.9 chance you're going to make it in one way or another, so you can prove yourself. And so, that's kind of closed the door on that argument, which is great.
Well, when Cincinnati got in, they had to play without 2 starting corners that were All-Americans, and they played Georgia, and it was a really tight game. And in fact, Cincinnati was winning for the majority of the game, and Georgia came back in the 4th quarter and won the game. And Cincinnati had a ton of starters who are now all in the NFL. And so, this misnomer that the logo on your shirt has something to do with victory is just false. And
ask FSU about that.
Yeah, exactly. And but you see upsets all the time. I said a second ago, I was surprised that Navy lost to Rice. Well, because you got to show up.
Yeah.
You got to go show up. You think everybody, they're not all lifting weights and watching film and practicing. They got uniforms and everything. They're out there trying too. And the worst teams in the country aren't really that bad. Mm-hmm. They're not able to come together. Maybe they do lack a little talent. but the differences are not as great as it seems. The differences between winning and losing, the margin is incredibly small. It's a very thin space between being great and being just average.
Yeah. UABsports.com. Check out the website. Everything you need to know about UAB Sports is on UABsports.com, including getting tickets. And, of course, you can also see the Inferno on there. You can check that out. And also, of course, on Tony Curry Radio. We're all over there, too, so I've been promoting it out there. Trent Dilfer, can't wait to get him in the studio. He's coming up here next, Coach's Corner, and we'll talk about that historical win this past week. Getting ready for UConn next. It's next on the Inferno.
The if in life. It's a world of possibilities. If you go for a night out with friends, if you can keep an eye on your money along the way, if you know you have overdraft protection with no fee transfers from savings, when you get a low balance alert, it's easier to say yes to fun. If that sounds good, try Regions Life Banking.
Stay ready for the if in life. Regions Bank, embrace the if in life.
Welcome back to the Inferno, Coach's Corner, the hot topic, of course, brought to you by Pepsi and Viva Health, and he is in the studio. Can we please get a round of applause for Trent Dilfer? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Welcome in, Coach. What's going on, brother? How are you?
I'm good. I'm happy for our guys. Really am. Happy for our building. A lot of work. A lot of stuff that we thought was coming earlier came out on Saturday, so hopefully we can continue that trend.
Well, and Mark and I were just talking before you came in. I watch every game from start to finish. I even look at some tape and stuff. I want to know what I'm talking about when I'm talking to you, and I'll do that with Andy when basketball season starts too. But I can see improvement, and I'm not doing it with rose-colored glasses. I can see improvement from week to week. I know it sucks to lose 6 games in a row. I can't imagine, but I also know how bad you want to win, and I know as your first year UAB, it just grinds your heart. It kills you. So I was happy for you and your kids, for sure. But what did you do? And I had a friend of mine call me and said, dude, for the first few games, they couldn't score a point. Now they can't stop scoring. They get a goose egg in the fourth quarter. You certainly didn't need it, 45 points at halftime. You haven't been in that position in a while. First of all, how'd that feel? How did you keep your foot on the gas at halftime in the second half to say, listen, hey, guys, we're up at halftime big time, but we got a lot of work to do here and finish this game up because we know this team can come back.
Well, like when we were losing and I kept staying aggressive, I want our team to get better by playing football. I think that's something that people just forget. Like you got to play football to get better at football. Mark played, I played. The more games you play, the more snaps you play with live bullets, the better you're going to be. So that was one of the messages. We're going to play our starters through the third quarter and try to score points and try to stop them. They had just come back the week before against UTSA from a big deficit. I think it was 35-7 at half. So they were all aware of that, and we knew the kind of style they would go to down that much. And then, they had some vulnerabilities. They're a good team. They're a well-coached team, but they had some real young players in some positions that we could take advantage of. They were really not wanting us to run the football, so the pass was the way to do it. And there was some misdirection stuff that just we didn't feel like they could handle with how they structured their defense. So I want to stay conservatively aggressive in the second half. Run good ball plays that have explosive qualities, but that were also safe. Because what you didn't want to have happen was you stay aggressive and then all of a sudden they score 3 touchdowns and anxiety comes up. You wanted to end the game with a good feel. And that's what I told the staff at halftime. I said, I've been in these games where you're blowing somebody out, you get conservative in the second half, and you feel awful coming out of it. Let's feel like we have momentum coming out of this thing. So that's why we kept the pedal to the metal.
What was your biggest comeback in the NFL?
Probably a couple touchdowns. Back in my day, there were not these comebacks that you see now.
It's insane.
Like it was, you were down 2 scores in the fourth quarter, and very rarely did you come back. You could try. We came back against the Packers one year from 2 scores. There are very few that you came back from 2 scores.
I watch NFL Red Zone, and it's just the most amazing thing to watch because that
it's crazy.
Yeah,
just offenses are so dynamic and. They can just
the rules are different. Just the freedom in offensive football, right, is just so different than when I played. It's a better game offensively. I think they've taken away from the defensive part of the game with all the rules, but It's a lot more fun to watch.
Have you ever seen what Saquon Barkley did yesterday?
I saw it late last night. As I was going to bed, my wife showed me. It was crazy.
I thought I'd seen everything.
Yeah, that was crazy.
It was the most amazing thing.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was great stuff. Trent Dilfer, the head coach of the UAB Blazers, victorious this week, getting ready for UConn. Coming up this week, 1:30 down at Protective Stadium. You're now 2-2 in the house. Talk just a little bit about UConn. They're already bowl eligible this year. Good football team.
Really good football team, but even better than their record. Like if you watch, I always pay attention to critical downs. Tight red zone, short yardage, third down. When really, the maturity of a team comes out, they're dominant. They're the 5th ranked third down defense in the country. They hold teams to field goals when you get in the red zone. They play into half. They beat Temple on a fourth down stop in the goal line. So they play big downs really well. Very NFL. And when I say NFL, I mean it's an NFL defense. They are gap exchanging. The defensive line moves constantly. They're never where you think they're going to be. That if you're watching it on TV, they're going to line up one place, the ball's going to be snapped, and they're going to end up a different place. So a lot of moving targets, which is hard for offensive linemen. Offensive linemen want, okay, that guy's right there. I'm going to work with him, and we're going to work up to you. And, and all of a sudden that guy lines up where Mark is, and he ends up way over there as the ball snaps. So, but like with any defense that does this, there's gaping holes when you catch them in them.
Yep.
They create havoc, but you can create havoc as well. So I've been up since 3:30 trying to find ways to create havoc for them.
There you go. I'd be remiss not to mention the game that Kitten had. Of course, I was a Bengals fan, so I followed his dad. Yeah. He's got the pedigree. He's got the genes in there, and all of a sudden we're starting to see him throw for 400 yards a game and 6 touchdowns. We'll take that. Just talk about how he's developed just over the last 3 or 4 weeks. Pretty amazing stuff.
It is amazing. His process has been so great, and I give Jacob a lot of credit. Now, Jacob kind of set a standard for how to prepare as a quarterback in this building, and it is relentless. And we tell every recruit, be careful what you ask for because you're about to get it. Oh, yeah, I want to work hard. I want to study. Are you sure? Because you have me, you have Mort, you have Nick, you have other guys you guys don't even know that were quarterbacks or quarterbacks coaches. There's 7 of us in the building. So Jacob established a process that is impeccable. I mean, it is a professional Drew Brees-esque process. And then Jalen watched it. It was like, okay, my dad did this. I know Coach Dilfer did this. I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. And now Jalen's finding his own process as well. Big visualization guy. We send him these scripts of 70, 80, 90 plays. He's up to 11:30 studying them, making notes on them. I'll wake up to texts of his notes that he took. So I'm really proud of this process. And I sat down with him Wednesday, late in the evening, and I said, listen, I promise you're going to play great this week. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to have any anxiety. You are going to play great. I can see it in your process. I can see it in practice. You're comfortable. This is your offense now. We've taken it from Jacob's offense, and we've morphed it into Jalen's offense. That's what any good offensive staff does. And so he owns it. It's his. He has feedback into it, just like Jacob did. There's stuff that I love every week. He's like, don't like it. I'm like, out.
Yeah.
I mean, out. If he has any hesitation, like tonight he'll get 50 ball plays that we've worked relentlessly on, and if he says to 12 of them, then we'll stay up all night and find 12 that he likes. Okay. So I think that helps, and his teammates have really gravitated towards him. He's fun. He's energetic. We're working on his body language. He's a perfectionist, so he gets hard on himself, and he hears me in the back yelling at him, body language. I struggled with that, so I resonate with it. But overall, the kid's just done a really good job, and we're playing really well around them. Yep. The skill players are playing well. I thought we protected better.
It's amazing when you have a great quarterback how the rest of the team starts to play better too. When you have that leadership, when you have that one guy that's really getting hot, it seems like everyone just starts catching the football. It makes everything easier. The ball looks bigger, and the spots are much larger as well.
We had too many drops, in the early part of the year, and
that
hurts
better.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody gets down on that. You didn't convert a third down, or now it's, it's third and long rather than third and short, or third and medium, and
self-inflicted wounds.
Totally, man, totally. So catching the ball if you're a receiver is important. Blocking the blitzing linebacker is important. Everybody's got to do it.
Looking hot if a blitzer comes. That's ULM. Jacob's throwing hot off a blitzer, and we don't look, and it's a pick six, and Jacob looks silly, but one guy doesn't do his job. So. I can sum it up this way: we're getting better. Yeah. I don't know how good we are yet, but we're getting a lot better. And I've seen that for weeks. It just didn't come to fruition on Saturdays. Mm-hmm. So it was nice to get some affirmation of the improvement that we're making.
Congratulations. I want to talk about some music coming up in just a few minutes, our hot topic here. I know you guys, I don't know how much into music you know. I'm a music guy, and so you're going to entertain me. Mark, I know you love your classic rock.
We'll see what happens here.
So I think you're going to like this. I do want to ask you one more question, though, and I actually get an email about this from a gentleman down in Southside. He wanted to know how many offensive plays you have in your book. What do you have when you start a season? What do you have at the end of the season? How do you know how many plays to have? We hear from coaches that say, we were going to dump it down this week. We're getting rid of half the book because the guys just don't know the book. And then, of course, you got some guys that don't like to read plays. They don't like to practice plays. How do you play into that? And then coaches that have like 8,000 plays. How does that work out? And how many guys do you need to know? I mean, cerebrally speaking, not everyone's a Peyton Manning out there. So how does that work?
Like I said, this is a whole segment. I'll try to do it simply.
Okay.
This is the dilemma that every offensive and defensive staff has too. You want as many bullets in the chamber as possible because games evolve and you plan for something and you get something else and you want to be able to have answers for it. So you want to have enough. But then you start going, oh, that would be good too, and this would be good too, this would be good too, and you got to realize what's the threshold of your players learning. So what Mort did, which I thought was really smart, was, and I kind of did this in the high school level too, was we said we took them to Mexico and we dropped them off. That was our philosophy. Like, we're going to take a bunch of kids down there, we're going to drop them off in Mexico, and they got to learn how to order coffee. And they got to learn how to get a hotel room and get an Uber and all that stuff. And the metaphor is we fully immersed them in stuff they didn't know, and they had to figure out how to learn it. So that's kind of the off season. So I would say if you want a number, 300 plus things they'll learn in the off season. Well, I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. And then we get into training camp, and we have 5 installs. So in 5 different days, we'll install what we think we're going to use for the season. That probably is a repeat of those 300 plays. Even though it's 5 days, it's about 300. Let's call them things, right? Mm-hmm. We do try to keep it simple for the offensive line. That's the one thing. You want the offensive line maybe doing 20 to 25 things, and then you smoke and mirror the rest. In season's interesting. I've been around teams where you carry like 55 for a game. We've carried as much as 130 here. Yeah. I've carried 100 at Lipscomb before. I found my sweet spot somewhere around 75, is what we found in high school. So we've pushed that to about 85, we think, is our sweet spot here. Last week we had 96. But you also get to the end of the week and you're like, well, that's the same play. Just one guy's changing his job. And then what we did last week is we felt we were like 11 heavy, 11 plays too many. I went up to those players, the one at T-Mac. I went to T-Mac. I say, hey, man, we might be a little heavy on plays here. You got these 5 plays that are very – he goes, no, boom, boom, boom. He knew all 5. I'm like, okay, those are good then, because he knows what to do. And everybody else, they're doing the same thing. Yep. And if the quarterback understands it from – we call it the dot theory. So we have destination theory and dot theory. This is something I came up with. I will take credit for this. The destination theory is every play has a final destination. It doesn't matter where you line up. Well, now you can add a lot of stuff from a lot of different looks because they're going to the same place. So everybody goes, well, how do you do that? Well, if he's in a really wide split, he might dive down. If he's in a tight split, he might spray out. If he's in a mid split, he might go vertical. We might motion to it, but it's just your final destination. So if we call Henry, which is one of our plays, Henry, everybody has a landmark. They know where that landmark is. We can line up in anything, and they're going to be like, I'm number 3, I'm going there. I'm number 2, I'm going there. I'm number 1, I'm going there. And they just count. It's a counting system, and they know I'm the 3 receiver, 2 receiver, 1 receiver. For the offensive line, it's 1 protection. So you can get a lot of volume in that way. And then the dot theory for the quarterback is we're going to run a lot of plays where the final dots are those destinations. So we create triangles in the passing game. So everything ends with a triangle, a 3-man triangle. And that's timed up to about 2.8 seconds, ish. Yeah. That between 2.8 and 3.2, we're going to be in that triangle. And we can call it Henry, we can call it Julio, we can call it Biscuit, we can call all these different things, but it's going to end up in the same dot. So the quarterback knows, hey, I'm reading that guy to that guy to that guy, or the defense does this, I'm starting on that dot. But I'm going to have these final dots. So that's another way you steal a lot of what we call stealing volume. Mm-hmm. And then if a team, for instance, the touchdown to Cam on 4th and 6, that was a play we've run, or 4th and 4. That was a play we've run probably 20 times this year. But we dressed it up with emotion, and we dressed it up with a split to the strong side, and we dressed it up with the back. And they had no idea that was the play we were going to run because it looked totally different to them.
Yeah.
But Cam knew, and Malachi knew, and Bryce knew, and for Jalen, it was simply dots. Like, I know that the defense goes that way. I go that dot to that dot to that dot. And the first dot happened to get open, and then he ran with the football. So it's beautiful when it works. The problem with this theory is if you can't protect. You know what I mean? Sure. The problem is it does take 2-8 to 3-2, you know, and like this week we may not have 2-8 to 3-2. So like we've been up since 3:30 this morning doing this. We're trying now to say, okay, maybe cut the field in half, you know, and maybe it's just 2 dots, right? Because these guys can really rush the passer and they can really do a lot of stuff. So, you know, it changes every week.
I know how important and by the way, do not drop off anyone in Tijuana. Do not email the show. I've been dropped off in Tijuana once and I almost got killed. Time, yes, it was in a van and was left in the middle of the desert and it was not good. It was my wife that was driving the van, by the way. I've always wanted this as a fan. Have you ever thought as a coach, and I know you're into analytics and stuff, have you ever thought as a coach, and I know you're...
I went against him twice, by the way, this week.
We put up 59 points, so you know maybe there's something to learn.
Well, one
there.
I went for when they told me not to.
Yeah,
so that was one of them.
There you go.
So I went with my gut.
You're tricking the books very good.
With my gut.
Do that again, will you? Have you ever wanted to start a game with like 4 bombs?
Yeah. So the thing that kills
why don't we
me,
ever see that? I mean, I
here's
know
one that bothers me. Tulane really eats at me. Because one, the final score and going for all those 4th downs put our defense in a terrible situation. But we start the game with a reverse pass that is going to go for 60 yards minimum if one guy just barely touches another guy.
Yeah,
you know, and I've done it. I've started with double passes. I've started with reverses. I've started with back-to-back go routes. Golish did the other night against FAU. He didn't start the game. But in the 3rd quarter, they ran 4 straight new receiver in the game go routes, snapping the ball at like 8 seconds. So they threw it, incomplete. They're on the line of scrimmage. Another receiver comes in. That receiver went off the field, got into the box, threw the same sideline go route. That receiver came out, they did it 4 times in a row.
Wow.
So it's a big Broyles thing. If you remember not Broyles, who's the guy that got in trouble at Baylor? Bryles. It's a big Bryles thing. It's called DC, deep choice, and it is a real thing, man. And it scares the death out of defenses because that same corner has to go 50 yards, run back, 50 yards, run back, 50 yards. And then what Bryles started doing with it, it's a great high school concept. If you're a high school coach and you're listening, it's something you should definitely study. We did it at Lipscomb. It was wildly effective. Is if you have enough receivers, by the 3rd time, the corner just turns and runs. So the receiver reads it, and he just stops. And you have just a free 15 yards. If you go back to the Robert Griffin Baylor team, it is unbelievable how much they did it. Like 12, 15 times a game they would do this. And that's why when they hit 4 of them, that's 28 points. But they would throw a bunch of the 15-yarders because the corner just taps out.
There's a pass interference thrown in there too. And
the corners just tap out.
Yeah,
they just literally tap out. They're like, I'm done. And they'll line up at 18, 20 yards. But like, you're not going to run by me.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm learning so much and I just want to keep going. Hurry up.
Yeah.
It works every time I watch it. I mean, I'm watching Jacksonville yesterday, and I mean, I know he throws a pick, but I'm like, they're going to score a touchdown. They're down by 5. The hurry up always works. The 2-minute offense seems like it always works. And I know you see guys in college go down, you know, with the fake injuries or something other. Why isn't that run more often?
It's limited in how you can run the football. That's number one. Most coaches will tell you become way too pass centric when you run the 2-minute. Right? There's not a lot of runs there. There's maybe 4 or 5 different concepts, and they're not great ones. There's a draw. There's like an outside zone play. There's a little trap play.
And is that just because you don't have time to line up? Or?
You don't have your tight end involved as much. Okay. You're not scheming them up. You know, teams kind of just line up in a balanced defense, so you can't get them to overload one side and run to the other. I'm not justified. I actually like it. You know, I like throwing we call it Mayday, throwing Mayday in there to change the tempos. It's hard on your offensive lineman. Like, you know, think about an offensive lineman. You're sitting in your pass setting 7 straight times. You know, offensive linemen like to go forward. They don't love to go backwards. So, meaning they like to run block, not pass block. So that's limited. It's funny you say the Trevor Lawrence thing. I saw none of the game, but their general manager and I are very, very, very close friends. And we were talking last week, and he was talking about how much better Trevor is in the 2 minute. He's like, every time we get into a hurry up mayday, Trevor plays his best football. When we slow it down, we're awful as an offense, and he's not playing well.
But he's fast every time. But I mean, the guy, he just gets in a rhythm. Yeah. It's just he just.
There's
gets
certain guys that really.
I would take him over Aaron Rodgers in a 2 minute. I really would. Yeah. I mean, he's that good.
Where's the defense out because they can't rotate? Yeah. You know, to go fast, the offense can't make substitutions. Really, you don't have time to, which means the defense can't. Yeah. And every time you make any forward progress, they just get a little more gassed. The defense gets a little more gassed. It becomes harder and harder. That's why the defense eventually has to call a timeout, which you think is opposite. You're like, no, the clock's on their side. Yeah, but if you don't call a timeout, these guys are going to collapse.
The other interesting thing about it is you put your defense in. Like we battle with this all the time. We want to play fast, right? We're better when we play fast. But when we go 3 and out and play fast, that took like 90 seconds. And it took like 4 minutes of real time.
Yeah.
And those guys that just maybe played an 8-play drive or just got to the bench, they just got their corrections, they're huffing and puffing, they got the oxygen masks on, and then punt. You know, they're like, oh my gosh, we're going back on the field. Yeah. And if you look at drives after short offensive drives, so defensive stands after short offensive drives, it's not a pretty picture. The offense goes on the field after a short drive typically has a lot of success.
It just seems like it'd be a good trade-off because it seems like it works so often. I know you're moving the ball, and TOP's always been important, but I saw the Cincinnati Bengals have a touchdown of 10 minutes and 4 seconds to start the game last week and got their ass handed to them. Yeah. And I'm like, they took the entire quarter to score 1 touchdown, they lost by 30. And I'm like, that looks great, and they won the TOP, but they lost the game by 20.
We've talked about it. Unfortunately, we've been trailing a lot in games the last 2 years, but we've talked about using as a change-up in the second and third series just to kind of get things going. So, I mean, it's a real thing. I'm not arguing with you. I'm giving you kind of the pros and cons.
Yeah. That is Coach's Corner. Our hot topics coming up here next. Of course, brought to you by Aviva Health and Pepsi. This is the Inferno. Mark Ingham, the UAB Athletic Director. Trent Dilfer, of course, is the head coach of your victorious UAB Blazers. We have Connecticut coming up in this next independent UConn. It was kind of strange. I don't even know where, is Oregon in the Big Ten? I started going through my books to figure out where they
It's hard.
Where is Washington one now? And I was like, I mean, it's just really. And then UConn, all of a sudden, they're independent. It just was like, oh, okay.
Not many of them.
Yeah, I want to talk about some music next. Will you entertain me?
We'll do it.
There's a guy just died. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, I assumed it must be Elvis.
No, it wasn't Elvis. He died yesterday, and I was on Fox 6 this morning talking about it. They had me on because I learned to play trumpet from this guy, and he was the most important man in music history. He was more important than the Beatles, Elvis, anyone else.
Who you got?
The Q. We'll talk about it next year on the Inferno.
Are you getting sacked by monthly fees on your checking account? Trent Dilfer here, head coach of the UAB Blazers. Legacy Credit Union's everyday checking account can get you back in the game. No minimum balance, no monthly fees, and get paid up to 2 days early. Check out LegacyCreditUnion.com for more information and apply today. Legacy, the official credit union of UAB.
Coming back in the Inferno, Trent Dilfer, Mark Ingham, the UAB Athletic Director. I'm Tony Curry. We do the show every single week. We got basketball. It's the greatest time of the year. We've got NHL. We got NBA. We got college hoops. We got college football. It's great. I mean, just my favorite time of the year. I absolutely love it. So many things to watch on the Boob Tube, and we'll get after it again this weekend against UConn. Quincy Jones passed away at the age of 91. Good life. I always think it's funny. They didn't mention what he died of. I'm like, well, he's 91 years old. I mean, what do you think he died of?
He died to be a 91.
I said this morning, and I'm catching a little flack back, but I don't care because it's true. He's the most important man in music history, not in the last 30 years, 50 years, of all time.
Yeah.
I was asked the question if I had to take Quincy or the Beatles, which one would I want to get rid of, and I'd say the Beatles all day. I think Quincy touched our lives, whether you know it or not. You don't realize that Burt Bacharach has written about 20 of your favorite songs. You're like, Burt, who? He's written 20 of your favorite songs, and I just wanted to entertain you a little bit because not only did he write songs for Off the Wall and Thriller and Bad, and obviously Thriller is the greatest album of all time. It's the top-selling album of all time. He was the trumpet player in Elvis Presley's band.
We talked about Elvis. I didn't know that either.
He was working in jazz bands from the age of 16. He met Ray Charles when he was 14. Ray was 16, and Ray taught him how to read Braille, and that's how he started formulating how to put horns sections together with everything else. I get goosebumps. I mean, talking about. I was in high school in the early '80s, and someone gave me a book about him. I cannot remember that. I was trying to find that book about his style of playing. In the '70s, he had an aneurysm while he was playing his trumpet, and the doctor said, "You can no longer play trumpet." And this guy's playing Heartbreak Hotel on Elvis records. He's like, "What? You cannot play the trumpet anymore, or it'll kill you." And he went to play the trumpet again and had another aneurysm. It had almost killed his ass. And he's like, "Okay, I'm not."
Oh,
and he
didn't
believe him?
did not play the trumpet again in the '70s.
Doctor says it'll kill me. I don't
Sanford and Son theme song. Color Purple was the first movie he directed. 11 Oscars it was nominated for. That was his first movie. Now he's a music producer. His daughter, Rashida Jones, she's the one on The Office. Mm-hmm. He was the one that sat down with Frank Sinatra, and Frank had written this song called Fly Me to the Moon, which was a #1 song, and it was really slow. And he came in, he was 22 years of age, and said, "Frank," he said, "what would you think about putting a little swing behind this and really getting after it?"
Wow.
And Frank said, "Who the hell are you?" "I'm Quincy Jones. I'm a producer. I work with Ray Charles and did blah, blah, blah." And he goes, "Let me take a look at it." Next thing you know, he's producing. I mean, I just think it's amazing. He touched so many parts of our lives, and I think it's not, it's worthy to bring up. I think
glad you did.
Yeah, just so you guys know a little bit. And thank you for entertaining me.
Yes.
Yeah, because I love the music. All right, till next week, we'll get after it again. Don't forget to go to UABsports.com, UABsports.com. Check out the website, man. Something's changing every single week. Athletic, it's great. Go get him this weekend, Coach. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. This is The Inferno. This episode of The Inferno is presented by Pearl River Resort. Call it an early weekend and head over to Pearl River Resort, where it's always no work and all play at Silverstar, Golden Moon, and Dancing Rabbit Golf Club. And be sure to catch the big game excitement at Timeout Lounge.